He wasn't supposed to notice her that way. Not when she was his boss. Not when her voice carried that unshakable calm that made everyone else straighten their backs. But there was something about her, the way she paused before speaking, as if she weighed every word against a lifetime of regret, that pulled him in. Elena Moore. 46. CEO. Controlled, graceful, unapproachable. And yet, in moments like this, when the office lights dimmed to a soft hum and her hand brushed his as she passed him a folder, he could swear she wasn't untouchable at all. "Long day?" he asked, breaking the silence. Her lips curved slightly. "They're all long." The words were simple, but something behind them trembled, like she wanted to say more but refused to let herself. She turned back to her desk, pushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear, and he caught the faintest trace of her perfume, subtle, warm, and maddeningly human. He looked away too late. "I can finish the report," he said quickly. "You should go home." "I live here," she murmured, not looking up. He almost laughed, but stopped himself when she finally raised her eyes. There was tiredness there, yes, but also something searching, like she was measuring who he was when he wasn't trying to impress her. "I mean it," he said, softer now. "You shouldn't stay this late." Her eyes lingered on him, steady and unreadable. "You sound like you've done this before." "Stayed late?" "No," she said, voice low. "Tried to save someone who didn't ask for it." He didn't know what to say. The air between them thickened, not with words, but with what neither dared to say. Outside, rain started to patter against the glass, faint but constant. The city lights blurred through the streaks, turning the office into a quiet cocoon of reflected gold. She stood, gathering her things. "You're still new here," she said. "You'll learn not to care so much." He smiled, small, unguarded. "Too late for that." She froze for a second, just enough for him to notice. Then she reached for her coat, her hand brushing the desk's edge. He could see her fingers tremble, barely, but enough. "Good night," she said. Her tone was even, but the pause before she spoke gave her away. He wanted to say don't go. He wanted to ask why does this feel like something already broken. But he didn't. He just nodded, watching her silhouette soften in the hallway light as she walked away. When the elevator doors closed, he sat back down, the air suddenly colder without her in it. The rain hit harder now, and in its rhythm, he heard the echo of her voice, steady, careful, always holding something back. He opened the folder she'd handed him. Her handwriting filled the margins, sharp, precise, but one note stood out, circled in blue ink: "Don't forget who you're doing this for." He stared at it for a long time, the pen still in his hand, his pulse too loud in his ears. Then, a sound. The elevator dinged again. He looked up. Elena stood in the doorway, rain glistening on her coat, eyes unreadable. "I forgot my phone," she said, but her voice was softer now, hesitant, almost fragile. She stepped back into the room. The door closed behind her. The second time she came back after hours, she didn't bother pretending she'd forgotten something. "Printer jam," she said. "Thought you might still be here." He was. He always was, half because of work, half because of her. "Guess I'm predictable," he said, trying to smile. Elena tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. Predictable can be comforting. She walked past him toward the printer, the faint click of her heels echoing in the empty office. The smell of rain still lingered from earlier that day, that mix of wet concrete and her perfume, and it pulled something quiet out of him. He followed her, more out of instinct than purpose. "You could have called maintenance." "I could have," she said, opening the printer lid, "but then I wouldn't get to see how you handle crises." Her tone was light, teasing, but the glance she gave him over her shoulder didn't feel like a joke. He knelt beside the printer, reaching in to free the paper. "You're not supposed to do that," he said. "What?" "Flatter your employees." "I didn't flatter you," she said. "I observed." There was a pause. Neither spoke. He looked up at her, too long, too close. Her hand brushed his shoulder as she reached for the stack of papers. The touch was brief, accidental, but it burned all the same. "Thank you," she said. He stood, suddenly too aware of how near she was. "Anytime." Elena stepped back, but not far enough to break the current running between them. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Depends. Why do you always stay so late?" Her eyes flickered. "Why do you?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "Because it's easier than going home to an empty apartment." She nodded, as if she understood too well. He watched her for a long moment before asking, "You live alone?" She hesitated. "My son's grown. College. The house feels different now." The way she said it, soft, deliberate, with a pause in the middle, told him everything. The silence after was heavy, but not awkward. More like a space neither of them wanted to fill too quickly. She turned toward the window. "You're young, Daniel. You'll figure out how to enjoy the quiet before it starts to hurt." He laughed once, quietly. "You think that's an age thing?" "I think it's an experience thing," she said, glancing back at him. "You haven't had enough yet to know what you'll miss." Something in her tone made his chest tighten, not pity, but recognition. He didn't know why, but he wanted to ask her everything, what she'd loved, what she'd lost, what she still wanted. Instead, he said, "You're wrong." "About what?" "The quiet," he said. "I think some people just get used to pretending it doesn't hurt." Elena blinked slowly, and for the first time, she looked unsure of what to say. Her hand gripped the back of the chair beside her, knuckles pale. "You shouldn't say things like that," she said finally. "Why not?" "Because it sounds like you mean them." He stepped closer, close enough to smell the faint trace of rain in her hair. "Maybe I do." She didn't move away, but her breath caught, just slightly, just enough to make the air between them shift. "I'm your boss," she whispered. "And I'm not doing anything wrong," he said softly. Her lips parted, but no words came. The printer clicked behind them, a small, mechanical sound that suddenly felt too loud. She finally took a step back, adjusting her jacket. "You should go home, Daniel." He nodded, but neither moved. "Good night," she said again, quieter this time. When she turned to leave, her hand brushed his again, the faintest touch, but deliberate. He didn't look down. He didn't have to. Because this time, she didn't pull away first. By the third week, pretending nothing was happening between them took more effort than the work itself. The glances stretched longer. The silences spoke louder. The air between them seemed to hum with something that neither of them wanted to name. It started with an ordinary morning meeting. Elena stood at the head of the table, speaking to a small team about the upcoming merger, but her tone carried an edge he hadn't heard before. Controlled, yes, but tight, like she was fighting to stay ahead of something she couldn't admit. When the others filed out, Daniel lingered, pretending to check his notes. "You okay?" he asked once the door shut. She took a breath, shoulders tense. "Do I look not okay?" "Kind of," he said softly. "Your jaw's been locked since you got here." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You watch me too closely." He could have denied it, but instead said, "Maybe." She sighed, finally letting her body relax against the edge of the desk. You shouldn't. He took a slow step closer. I've tried not to. Her eyes flicked up at that, a single heartbeat of silence between them. You don't know what you're doing, she said. I think I do. Before she could answer, a knock broke through the tension. The door swung open, her assistant, holding a folder. Elena straightened instantly, stepping away from him. Yes, she said, voice sharp, perfectly composed. Mr. Hale's waiting on your signature for the board report, the assistant said, glancing briefly between them. I'll handle it, Elena replied quickly. The door closed again. Daniel exhaled. That was close. Her hand trembled slightly as she smoothed her hair. You see what I mean, she whispered. This is dangerous. Then tell me to stop. She looked at him, really looked. If I tell you, will you? He didn't answer. Neither did she. The next moment unfolded slowly, her reaching for the folder on the desk, his hand brushing hers by accident. Or maybe not. Her breath hitched. She turned toward him, lips parted as if to say something, but nothing came out. His hand hovered, unsure whether to pull back or hold on. You're making this harder, she said finally. Harder than what? Than pretending we don't feel it. The confession hung between them like static. He moved an inch closer, enough that he could see the faint tremor in her eyelashes, the way her breath deepened. His heart pounded so loud he was sure she could hear it. Elena, he whispered. Her name felt dangerous in his mouth. She closed her eyes. Don't. He stopped, but didn't move away. The room seemed to shrink around them, filled only with the rhythm of shared breathing and the faint ticking of the wall clock. Then, a chime. Her phone buzzed on the desk, screen lighting up with a text, dinner tonight? Mark. He froze. Mark? She swallowed. My ex-husband. The word ex should have made it easier, but it didn't. He stepped back slightly. You still talk to him? Only when I have to. Something in his chest twisted, jealousy, guilt, something Messier. You don't have to explain. I know, she said softly. But you asked. The silence after that wasn't heavy, it was raw, almost fragile. He reached for his jacket, but before he could turn away, her hand caught his sleeve. Daniel, she said, barely above a whisper. He looked down at her hand, small, steady, holding on just enough to make him stay. Don't let this ruin what you came here to build, she said, though her voice cracked at the end. He met her gaze. I think it already has. Neither moved. And for a long, trembling second, it felt like the distance between them might disappear, until she finally let go. But her fingers brushed his again as she did. And this time, neither pretended not to feel it. By Friday, the office had emptied long before sunset, leaving only the low hum of computers and the faint tapping of rain against the windows, again. Rain always seemed to follow them. Elena sat at her desk, the glow from her monitor washing her face in cold light. Daniel lingered in the doorway, unsure if he'd been invited or if he'd just wandered in on instinct. You're still here, he said softly. So are you, she replied without looking up. I was finishing the proposal. You already finished it. He smiled faintly. Then I guess I was just looking for a reason. That made her finally glance up. A reason for what? He hesitated. To see you. Her expression flickered, a tiny crack in the composure she fought to keep. Daniel, she began, but her voice trailed off. He crossed the room slowly, each step deliberate. You keep saying my name like that. Like what? Like you're warning yourself. She turned her face away, but he could see the faintest blush rise along her cheek. You don't understand. People talk. They always do. He stopped just short of her desk. Let them. She stood then, pushing the chair back. The air between them tightened. You're young, she said. You still believe things are simple. He shook his head. No. I just think some things are worth the mess. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the rain, steady and soft. Then she sighed and rubbed her temples. You think this is easy for me? He took another step. I don't think any of this is easy. His voice had dropped, low, quiet, careful. She looked up at him, and suddenly she wasn't the CEO anymore. She was just Elena, tired, human, fighting herself. You don't know what I've given up to stay in control, she said. He reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. His fingers hesitated just at her temple before falling away. You don't have to keep pretending you don't want this too. Her breath caught. You shouldn't say that. Why not? Because it makes it real. It already is. She stared at him, eyes glassy with unspoken things. Her hand lifted as if to push him away, but instead, it rested against his chest, not firm, not resisting, just there. He could feel her pulse through her palm. He didn't move. Neither did she. Daniel, say it, he whispered. Her hand trembled. You make me forget who I am when you look at me like that. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's the point. A sharp breath escaped her, half a laugh, half surrender. You have no idea what you're doing to me. Then tell me. Her eyes searched his, desperate and afraid. I can't. And yet she didn't step back. He leaned closer, until his breath brushed her ear. You already have. Her shoulders tensed, her lips parting slightly, the distance between them shrinking to almost nothing. Then, a sound shattered it. The elevator dinged, echoing through the hall. She flinched, pulling her hand away as if burned. Someone's still here, she whispered. He looked toward the door, then back at her. Do you want me to go? Her throat moved as she swallowed. I don't know what I want anymore. He took one slow step back, his chest still rising too fast. Then tell me when you do. She nodded, but her eyes didn't leave his. The elevator doors slid open somewhere down the hall, a reminder of the world waiting just beyond their silence. And yet, when the noise faded, she whispered, almost to herself, maybe I already have. The next Monday, Elena avoided him. Meetings were shorter. Messages came through her assistant instead of directly. When she did speak to him, it was all business, precise, clipped, airtight. But he saw the cracks. The way her voice faltered before hanging up a call. The way her hand trembled when she passed him a document without looking up. By Thursday, the silence between them was unbearable. He waited until the office lights dimmed again, until only her door glowed faintly through frosted glass. Then he knocked once and stepped inside. She didn't look surprised. Just tired. Daniel, she said. It's late. So tell me to leave. Her lips pressed together. She didn't. He closed the door. You've been avoiding me. Because I have to. Why? She stood, crossing her arms. Because what happened last week can't happen again. Nothing happened. That's the problem, she said. Something almost did. The words landed heavy between them. He moved closer, slow and careful. Then say you don't feel it. Her eyes flickered. Don't make this harder. He waited. She didn't answer. The silence stretched, until a sharp buzz broke it. Her phone, face down on the desk, lighting up with a new message. He glanced at it without meaning to, just a reflex, and froze when he saw his own name. Text from Mark, I told him you'd say no. He still thinks he has a chance. Elena reached for the phone, but he was faster. What is this? Daniel, she said quickly, give it back. He held it just out of reach. Why is he talking about me? Her shoulders dropped. It's not what you think. Then what is it? She exhaled. Mark came by last week. He wanted to know if anyone knew was distracting me. He noticed how often I said your name in meetings. His stomach tightened. You talked about me? I didn't mean to. He laughed once, dry, disbelieving. So he knows. He suspects. Great, Daniel said, pacing now. So I'm officially the rumor. Daniel, no, he interrupted. You were worried about people talking? Guess it's too late for that. She stepped closer, her tone sharper. You think I wanted this to happen? You think I wanted to feel? She stopped herself. The sentence died between them. His eyes softened. What? He asked quietly. Feel what? She looked away. Everything I shouldn't. He took a slow breath. Then maybe stop pretending it's only you. Her composure cracked then, subtle, but visible. Her hands shook as she set the phone down. I told him nothing was happening, she said. I told him you were just a kid trying to make a name for himself. The words hit him like a slap. A kid? Her eyes widened, realizing too late. Daniel, but he was already turning toward the door. That's what you think of me? No, she said quickly, moving after him. That's what I had to say. You don't understand, he stopped, voice low. Then help me. Make me understand. She hesitated, inches away. If I admit what this is, I lose everything I built. My position. My name. And you, I can handle it. She shook her head. No, you can't. You still believe love doesn't cost anything. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer until she had to look up at him. Maybe I don't care what it costs, he said quietly. Not anymore. Her breath trembled. His hand lifted, not quite touching her cheek, just hovering, waiting for her to move first. Her voice shook. You shouldn't. But I do. For a second, it seemed like she might let him. The air thickened. Her lashes fluttered. The distance between them vanished to almost nothing, then she turned abruptly, brushing past him toward the window. Her hand covered her mouth. I can't, she whispered. Not like this. He stayed still, his pulse still pounding in his throat. Then when? She turned back, eyes glistening. When it's already too late. He didn't move. Neither did she. But her words stayed between them, the kind that couldn't be taken back. The rain came back that night, harder than before. Daniel stood in the lobby, watching it streak down the glass, his reflection faint beside the storm. He told himself he was just waiting for the weather to ease. But that was a lie, he was waiting for her. When the elevator opened, Elena stepped out, coat unbuttoned, hair loose, eyes tired. She froze when she saw him. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. I know. Then why are you? He took a slow breath. Because I can't keep pretending you're just my boss. Her shoulders tensed. Daniel, he shook his head. You told me to stop, but you keep finding ways to stay close. You walk away, then come back. Tell me what you want me to do. She looked at him, really looked, and something inside her seemed to give way. I want you to stop making this harder. Then say you don't want me. The silence that followed was answer enough. He stepped closer, stopping just short of her. The air between them pulsed, heavy, alive. Her breath caught, shallow, uneven. You don't understand what this would mean for me, she whispered. I think I do. Her hand trembled at her side. You'd lose respect. I'd lose everything. He smiled faintly. Maybe I already did. Her eyes flicked up, startled, not by the words, but by how true they sounded. He reached out, fingers brushing the edge of her sleeve. Tell me to go, Elena. Please. Just once, say it like you mean it. She didn't. Instead, she took one step forward, small, but enough that her breath brushed his collarbone. Her hand rose to his chest, palm flat, heartbeat against heartbeat. I've spent half my life holding myself together, she said. I don't know how to want something that isn't safe. He leaned down slightly, voice low. Then maybe safe isn't what you need. Her eyes glistened. You're going to regret this. Probably. And you'll blame me. He shook his head. No. I'll thank you. Something broke in her then, a small sound, half laugh, half sigh. Her fingers curled against his shirt. The space between them disappeared until only their breathing remained, shallow, uneven, shared. Her forehead rested against his for a moment, just that. Nothing more. The kind of closeness that said everything words couldn't. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. This isn't supposed to happen. Then stop me. Her hand slid up, brushing his jaw. I can't. The lights flickered from the storm outside, a brief pulse of shadow across her face, softening the sharp edges of everything that had kept them apart. For one suspended heartbeat, it felt like the whole world had gone still. Then she exhaled, slow and trembling. We can't go back after this. He nodded, voice rough. I don't want to. Her lips hovered inches from his, close enough that he could feel the warmth of her breath, the hesitation in it, the surrender trying to break through. But she stopped just short. Instead, she whispered, You make me feel seen again. He closed his eyes. Then let me keep doing that. When she finally stepped back, it wasn't rejection. It was acceptance, quiet, certain, painful in its honesty. She looked at him one last time. Now you know, she said. Now we both do. And for the first time, neither of them tried to hide from it. The rain had stopped by morning. When Elena arrived at the office, the city was washed clean, streets gleaming, air sharp with that post-storm calm that makes everything feel new. Daniel was already there, leaning against her doorframe with 2 coffees. He didn't speak at first, just offered her one. She hesitated, then took it. Peace offering, she asked, voice still low from a sleepless night. He smiled. More like truce. She gestured toward the small couch by the window. Sit. They did, a careful distance at first, like they were learning how to exist in the same space again without all the noise in between. For a while, they said nothing. The city hummed below them, sunlight crept across the floor. Finally, she spoke. I kept thinking about what you said. He turned to her. Which part? The part about not wanting safe. She took a breath. I've lived my whole life inside rules. Built walls so high I forgot what it felt like to let someone close. He listened quietly, eyes soft. I told myself I was protecting what I'd earned, she continued. But really, I was just lonely. Daniel set his coffee down. You don't have to be. Her lips curved faintly. It's not that simple. I know, he said. But it's not impossible either. The way he said it, steady, certain, made her chest ache a little. She turned toward him fully, studying his face. The way the morning light caught in his eyes. The quiet steadiness in him that she'd mistaken for inexperience. You're younger than me, she said softly. He nodded. I've noticed. It scares me. Why? Because I keep forgetting it matters. He smiled then, that small, sincere smile that had undone her a dozen times already. Then maybe it doesn't. Her fingers toyed with the lid of her cup. You're not afraid of how this looks? Of course I am, he said. But I'm more afraid of pretending it doesn't mean anything. Something inside her gave way at that, not loudly, just a quiet surrender. She set her coffee aside and leaned back, exhaling. You make everything complicated. He laughed softly. I thought that was your specialty. Apparently I taught you too well. The room fell silent again, but this time it wasn't tense. It was easy. Familiar. The kind of quiet that belonged to people who'd already said the important things. He shifted closer, his hand brushing hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, she laced their fingers together, slow, deliberate, like testing a truth she already knew. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You should know, I don't do this often. The opening up part. I kind of figured, he said. And yet you're still here. He squeezed her hand gently. Where else would I go? She smiled, eyes glinting with something lighter now, not fear, not guilt, but a fragile kind of peace. When he leaned in, it wasn't rushed. Just a small, human gesture, his forehead resting against hers, breaths mingling, the world fading to the space between them. No grand declarations. No promises. Just presence. When she finally spoke, it was almost a sigh. You make me feel young again. He shook his head slightly. No. I just make you remember that you still are. Her laugh was quiet, warm, real. Outside, the clouds parted, sunlight spilling through the window and across their joined hands. Neither moved. Neither needed to. For the first time, there was no fear left between them, only the calm after a storm they both knew they'd survive together. 1.